All right, welcome to the show. This is your host, Christopher Gelson. Welcome to Protect Your Children Now, hosted by Protect Your Children Incorporated. ProtectYourChildren.org is the website, ProtectYourChildren.org. Also, ProtectFromPredators.org. Two great websites. Actually, it's only one, but they go to the same place. So, ProtectFromPredators.org, ProtectYourChildren.org. We're glad that you are here. We got a very special show tonight, a little emotional, powerful, impactful. But we're honored to be able to bring to you a story that we feel is going to help protect a lot of children and also educate parents on the dangers of online predators. We have a 13-year-old. We'll call him Jay. Jay will be his name, Jay, anonymous, of course. He will be sharing a story tonight about how he went online and started talking with predators, kind of got trapped in the cycle, almost got kidnapped by one of them, and the dangers that come along with that, the red flags, a little bit, maybe why he got into it, how he's getting out of it, and what he thinks parents can do to protect their kids from it, and also some warnings for kids to look out for. So we're going to bring that to you in a little bit. So we're glad that you're here. We got Intuitive One in the chat. Intuitive One, welcome to the show. Glad you're here. We got Tracy. What's up, Tracy? She says, howdy. Howdy, Tracy. Cool. And she says, looking and sounding great. Thank you. Yes, we did adjust the microphone setup a little bit, so it sounds a little closer, deeper. We did something with lighting, so hopefully we're looking sharp. Hopefully we got no tech issues tonight here on the show. So thank you, Tracy, for letting us know about that. And so first I will tell you that, of course, we have the website, which, of course, is ProtectYourChildren.org. Let me share that with you real quick here. ProtectYourChildren.org right there. All right. So everything you need to know on this website to help keep kids safe. You got the in-depth protection packet. And like I always say, this isn't your grandma's one-liners. This isn't like, be careful walking down the street at dark. These are actual detailed guidelines on things to look for, stuff that you can teach your kids, warning signs, behavior changes, profiles of predators, how to be safe online. Everything is all part of the in-depth protection package. So definitely check that out. It's in English and Spanish. We got a section on preventing kidnapping, some great tips on how to teach kids how to be safe from kidnappers. And there's just tons of stuff, All our podcasts are there. Our live shows are all hosted right here on the website. Child protection teaching videos, zip code predator searches. You can go and put in your zip code. It'll give you any arrested sex offenders that are living around your kids' schools, around their homes, around where they go play sports, so you can have an idea of who's around your kids. How to set up parental controls on different devices, very important. And again, we'll plug Guardian as a good app that we're using. We recommend to people. And background checks, we do $5 background checks. That's federal, state, local. We don't necessarily need a social security number, but just a date of birth, first, last name, and some cities where the person lived, and we can do background checks for you to see if people are safe before they come around the kids. You can donate to help us out, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So yeah, that's ProtectYourChildren.org. So please visit the website and share the website with people. So all right. So let me jump right in tonight. We're gonna get to Jay probably around 15 minutes or 20 minutes after the show. So stay tuned for that. And right now we actually have the call-in number set up tonight. So we do have the call-in number set up for people if they want to call in the show. They can ask Jay questions. He's actually open for people to call in and ask questions. Talk to him, encourage him, whatever you'd like to do. You can call in the show. And that number is 727-349-6941, 727-349-6941. Just when you come on, tell us your name, where you're calling from, and you can be able to talk with Jay or myself if you'd like. So you can definitely do that. We'll be taking calls a little bit later in the show. So I want to jump right out with our Hero Kids segment tonight. This is a powerful, powerful Hero Kids segment. It's a little long, but what a great story. What a great story. This teenager, you talk about risking your life to rescue people that he didn't even know. He's being raised right. He's being raised right. So let's check out the Hero Kid segment, and we'll be back right after that.
This is an incredible story. A Mississippi teenager being hailed a hero after saving 4 people, including a police officer, from drowning in the Pascagoula River last weekend. It happened after a car with 3 teenage girls inside drove off the I-10 boat launch, plunging into the water. 16-year-old Corian Evans saw the car begin to sink and quickly jumped into action. One of the survivors talked about this terrifying ordeal that nearly took her life.
I knew my last breath was coming, and so I just let my phone down, and then I was just like this, like trying to stay calm and stay over water. When I tell you right before my last time going underwater, that was gonna be my last time going underwater. Gloria had grabbed me.
And I was right there looking at it, so I couldn't just watch nobody die. Even when I seen the police officer, I couldn't just sit there and watch nobody die.
And Corian is joining me now. Oh my gosh, Corian, how incredible that you were there in the right place at the right time to help these girls, to save their life and the life of a police officer. What happened? Take me there.
Yeah, it was a crazy night. It was after a party, and we usually have a place that we go, but that had got shut down. So we're just gonna go under the bridge because it's like a boat launch. It's room for parking, so we could just go out there and have a good time. So it was getting late. We were getting ready to leave, and so I got in my car and I was getting ready to pull off, and I seen another car pull off behind me, and I seen them drive in a direction towards the water, and I'm like, but the street is towards that way. Why are they going towards the water? So I'm watching them, and going into the water is like a ramp going down into it. And so I'm watching them, and as I'm watching the car, I see the car drive straight down the ramp, and I'm a little confused. I'm like, I know they're gonna I'm thinking they're about to get ready to come back up or reverse back up, but then I seen people run over there, and so I got out of my car. And so when I started running over there, I started hearing people yelling help. So then that's when I sped up my running. I heard people saying help. And I got over there and I ran and I seen them in the water. They're all in the water. I see the cars underwater and I just see them screaming help. And when I first seen them, I was like in shock. I was like, no way, this is really happening. But then I had to snap out of it quick. And so I just took my shoes off. And I took my shirt off and I threw my phone out of my pocket, and I just jumped in the water. And at first I got the girl that was closest to me, and I grabbed her and I had to swim her back to the shore. I gave her to somebody that was at shore, and then it was still 2 girls that was also in the water. So then I had to swim from shore and go back out into the water. There was about 20 feet out there. I had to go back into the water and go get the other girls. They were still, and one of them was in the water panicking a lot, but some of the car was still above the water, like the front windshield and like kind of the top of the roof. So I had to go back out there in the water, and the girl that was panicking, I had to get her, and I'm swimming her. I'm like, oh, come on, let's go get back to the car. Just calm down, catch your breath. And the other girl, she didn't know how to swim, but she knows how to keep her head above water and tread water, so she won't go under. So I'm telling them, come on, let's get on top of the car. Just calm down. She's still panicking. And that's when the Officer Mercer arrived. And when he arrived, he swam out there to us. We were still sitting on top of the car. He swam out there to us. And he was telling her, the girl right there, he was telling her, I got you. We're going to be okay. We're going to make it back. I got you. And she got on his back, and when he tried to swim from her panicking, she also started taking him under. And so he was going under, trying to come back up. He was swallowing a lot of water. And so he was telling her, I can't keep going. I can't. He was swallowing a lot of water. He couldn't breathe. He had on his gear. He couldn't breathe. So that's when I had to jump off top of the car, and I had to go and help them. I was behind them, trying to keep them both above water and push them forward towards shore at the same time. The officer and the girl, I was trying to do it with both of them. And so I'm knowing that the girl can't swim and she was panicking. So I started mainly focusing on the girl. So I started focusing on the girl, trying to help her get to shore like faster because I know she can't swim. And so I got close to the shore. I felt myself I could walk. Like when I felt my feet touching the ground, that's when I like just gave her to somebody for it. I was like, here, get her. And behind, I turn around and I see the officer. He's drowning. He's like going underwater. He's like gasping for air. He's trying to stay above the water. He starts struggling to stay above the water. So that's when I had to leave again. And then I had to go and grab the officer and bring him back to the shore. And when he got there, he couldn't breathe. He was laying on the ground. He was throwing up. Like the officer was really about to drown. And
Corian.
yeah, that was all. They made it back.
Corian, I'm glad you ate your Wheaties that morning, and you have some good parents that raised you, doing the right thing there and teaching you how to swim as well, knowing how to rescue these people and doing the right thing and jumping in the water at the right time to get them out. We are blessed to have you in this world, and those girls are blessed that you were there at the right place at the right time. Thank you.
Wow. Now that is what we call a hero kid. All right. That's awesome. Is that something or what? I mean, this is what you call being raised right. You know, he's 16 years old. 3 girls he doesn't even know, plus a police officer who I will say was white. See how that didn't come into the picture? Didn't matter if it was black or white or whatever, right? This is called humanity. And that's how we want to raise our kids, right? We want them to be able to think of others before themselves. And we also know that some things can get into their life that can ruin that. Drugs, alcohol, predators, all that can destroy a child's life and get them to think only about themselves and not other people. So we always want to salute the hero kids that are doing a great job out there and just making a difference. I mean, 3, even 4 people now, 3 girls and the officer have a life to live because of the bravery and the courage and the selflessness of one teenager. And that is a hero kid. So how awesome is that? All right. We got a quick story here. This is very powerful and emotional. This is a story of a 13-year-old girl who was literally talking to somebody online she thought was a friend for about 6 months. Again, parents, where were the parents? And she stepped outside the house just to say hi to the person. And what she went through after that is just horrifying. Now, she was rescued. That's the good part. But this fits right into what Jay is going to talk about tonight. And, it's very emotional and powerful, but we want to bring it to you because it just shows how dangerous it really is out there. And kids are in danger and parents need to be paying attention. So this was a teenage girl, 13 years old, that was kidnapped. Check this story out, and we'll be right back in a few minutes.
13-year-old Alicia stepped out of her parents' home and into a living nightmare. She had agreed to meet a friend she'd been chatting with online for 6 months.
We were having a family dinner, and between dinner and dessert, as I was clearing the table, Alicia went up to her room, and we called her down for dessert, and she was gone.
This picture was taken about 2 weeks before my abduction. I'm wearing the same clothes that I was abducted in.
I walked out my front door between dinner and dessert to meet this person, just to say hi, who I thought was my friend. I walked up the street just a little, and next thing I know, that little voice inside of me spoke up. Alicia, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. My intuition started screaming at me, Alicia, go home.
By that time, I heard my name being called. Next thing I knew, I was in the car. He was squeezing my hand so tightly that I thought it was broken. And he was telling me warnings, the trunk's cleaned out for you. And he started to drive. And he continued to drive and drive and drive. And eventually he hit a toll booth. And he threatened me, but he couldn't stop my tears. I had this immense, great feeling of hope that he was going to get to this toll booth. The person inside would see me crying. They would be alerted, and it would all be over. The car pulled up to the toll booth. The money was exchanged, and the gate went up, and he continued on, and I lost hope in that moment. And at that point, I realized, okay, well, you're much bigger than me, and the time to fight and kick and scream is over. I need to do whatever I need to do to survive. He took me down into the basement, down these winding, long stairs. And inside was what can best be described as a dungeon, a really terrifying place. And it looked like there were things all over the wall that were meant to cause pain. And he propped me up on a table and he told me that this is going to be hard for you. It's okay, cry. He held me captive by a chain to my neck and a locked collar. And I mean, let your worst nightmares come to your mind, and that's what happened. Yeah. Up until the 4th day, I had done whatever I had to do to survive. No matter how painful or humiliating or disgusting, I did it because I knew that my only chance of survival was to stay alive long enough for somebody to come find me. On that 4th day, he looked at me and he said, I'm beginning to like you too much. Tonight we're going to go for a ride. And I knew that that was when he was going to kill me. I thought about my family. I knew that my parents were looking for me and that they loved me and that they would find me. But would they find me in time? When was the last time I told my mom, dad, or brother that I loved them? Did they know that I loved them? And I decided in that moment that I was going to do anything to get away, that I was going to risk my life. I heard the door fall in, and these people, it sounded like they were tearing apart this house. I thought they were coming to kill me. I thought that he'd sent people to kill me. I was terrified. I watched those boots, one set of them, walk from one side of the bed to the side that I was hiding under. And I remember crawling out from underneath this bed. I was going to fight him, dragging that heavy chain behind me and staring into the barrel of a gun and thinking that this is it. This is the moment I'm going to die. And then he turned around. And then I saw the most beautiful letters in the alphabet. FBI, in bold yellow on the backs of their jackets. And I knew that I was safe. And I can remember my dad, he ran up and he gave me a hug. Nothing could hurt me ever again because my dad wouldn't let anything hurt me again. And that was when the nightmare was over. Being in my family's arms. An amazing moment for us to be reunited, something that is truly a miracle that we never thought would happen.
So what do you want to say to kids 13 years old right now?
It's so scary because they're making the same exact mistakes I did.
We teach our children to wear a seatbelt. We teach them to look both ways before they cross the street. And the reason we do that is because it's going to hurt them. It's not to terrify them and make them afraid of the world, it's to empower them.
You must talk to your children. And you have to let your child know that they can come to you with absolutely anything at all.
Yes, my story is horrendous. And people constantly say to me, oh, well, I went through something and it's not as bad as what you went through. And yes, it is. It's your experience. You can't put a value on trauma. It takes time and it takes your time. It's okay for it to take time, for you to cry and scream and break down. It is difficult. There are ups and downs, but you can get through it.
Wow. Fighting back tears on that one. How powerful is that? Whew, man. Thank God she was rescued. She was talking to somebody online, thought it was a friend, thought they were safe, and they turned out to do the unimaginable to her. But we're thankful that she was rescued. But this is the danger that's out there. And you got to keep an eye on your kids. You got to watch what they're doing on their phones. You have to keep an eye who they're talking to, where they're at. Because you might say, hey, that was just one circumstance. No, this is happening a lot. Remember Cleveland from a month or so ago? 1,000 kids missing. So this is happening more and more today. Kids are disappearing, and it's all because of social media. In fact, 90% of teen abductions since 2010 have been through social media. That's how it got started. So that's the way the predators are going right now. So keep an eye on your kids. Keep an eye on your kids. And Tracy says, brave young lady. Absolutely. I mean, you do what you have to do until you can get away. And she did what she had to do. All right. We're going to welcome Jay to the show. That's an anonymous name. Jay. We're going to call him Jay. He will be off camera. Why don't you wave hi, Jay? There you go. There's Jay. Jay has quite the story to tell. We're going to say about for a good 6-month period, Jay was talking with predators online, trading, doing all the stuff that kids can fall into online. And if it wasn't for God, and we believe this, that kind of got this exposed, who knows where he would be at this point. So the family had contacted us, and we got involved to help get Jay protected and to kind of help figure out how this all got started, what his parents and grandparents can do to help keep him safe, and to talk with him a little bit, counseling and whatnot, to try to help him out and get him through this situation. And so I asked him probably about a month ago if he'd be willing to come on the show. And he said, yes, he would. He'd be nervous, but he would come on the show. If you see me look away, it's because he's off camera. So that's why you'll see me looking away. But he did say he wanted to come on the show so that he can help educate parents and kids and help keep them safe and kind of share what he's been through. Now, if you guys remember a little bit about the story, I mentioned about somebody that he was communicating with, and the guy was in Canada. And this predator had basically said, hey, I'm in Canada. I might be able to get down there like next week or something because it's down in Florida. But he said, I have a friend in Orlando who would be interested in kids. And I can actually get you an Uber to, Orlando so you can meet up with this guy. And then somehow him and that guy would end up meeting up with the Canadian guy, right? Now, of course, we thought that was hilarious at the time because we're like, how the heck? He's not going to get an Uber. Like, I drive Uber part-time, and we can't pick up 13-year-old kids, right? And then, of course, you remember the show we did not too long ago where Uber is now allowing teen accounts. And we showed you just how easy it was to set up a teen account. They don't verify if I was a guardian, if I was a parent. I was able just to go in there and set up an account for a teenager, and then I can order them rides, and they can go wherever they want. Imagine what predators will do when it comes to sex trafficking children with that. You get a kid online to think that you're a nice person, and somebody gets into that Uber, and they'll never be seen again. They can have the situation that 13-year-old girl just had, right? So I wanted to bring you the article. Now, we did some background work. We were able to identify the username of the social media account. I'll keep out which one it was, private, of course. And we were able to do a background check and work backwards and find who this person was. And, of course, the information has been all handed over to the authorities. And I want to share with you an article that was in the news actually about this crazy person. And this is the person. I don't know if you guys can see that well. It's probably kind of small, but Nova Scotia man chained teen gets 11 years in prison. And it goes on to talk about how this guy, it says the man who helped kidnap, chain, and sexually assault a teenage boy in rural Nova Scotia last year has been sentenced to 11 years in prison. Now, that was in 2013. So here we are at 2023. I'm assuming he got out early, a little bit early. And this guy had jumped online and was immediately trying to find kids. Like he went right back to it after 11 years in prison. And it goes on to talk about how he had chained this boy up in a cabin and then went and got a 5-year-old boy and did horrific, as you can imagine, things to these kids. Kept them chained up, sexually assaulted them repeatedly. right? Very, very dangerous. And wouldn't you know that this is the person that Jay ended up speaking with? What's the chances of that, right? But these predators are crawling all over every end of social media, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, they're all over the place. And they're looking for a certain type of kid. And usually they got to work hard at it to say, well, maybe this child will be willing to do something, you know? But parents, guess what? There are kids, and Jay's going to share in a few minutes here, that for whatever reasons, which we'll get into, will go online to look for that attention. And it's a dangerous trap, but it does happen. And parents, if you don't think it happens, I know that we always talk about the predator going after the child, but we never think of the child going out there to the predators. But that's exactly what happened in this case. And Jay's not the only case. There are thousands and tens of thousands of kids that are out there communicating with predators right now, and parents don't have any idea because they're not checking their phones. They're not paying attention to their kids. They're not spending time with their kids, and their kids are going online looking for attention from these people, and it's going to get their kids killed. That's just what's going to happen. Parents, I know that sounds harsh, but that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. So anyway, I welcome Jay to the show. Just want to thank you for being here. Seriously. You are anonymous, obviously. You're off the camera. Name has been changed for obvious reasons. You a little nervous?
Yeah.
A little nervous. Okay. I hope you guys can hear Jay all right. So let's kind of go, let's start at the beginning, right? So what was your first thought when you're like, I'm going to go online and start talking to people? What was your goal?
To find anyone to talk to.
All right. So it starts off as innocent as that. Let me just, friendship?
More
communication.
to trade pics.
Okay. So, and this is what we all know as sexting, right? Sexting is you're sending pictures back and forth with people. Now, what was your goal of that? What did you think was going to happen? Like you're thinking, all right, if I send somebody pictures and they send me pictures, what was the best, you understand, what was the reasoning for that?
To hopefully find a girl that would send.
Okay. Now, as you were getting involved in all of this, and of course you are anonymous, nobody knows who you are, but did it just isolate to girls, or did you end up encountering guys and all sorts of people?
I started encountering all sorts of people.
Now, did it surprise you that it was that? Like, how long would you say it took?
It took a good hour or two until some guy texted me saying trade pics.
Now, that's interesting. So in that case, you would say what, hours you said?
Hour or two, yeah.
An hour or two. Wow. Can you guys hear Jay? Let me know if you guys can hear him. Okay, he's off camera, but we want to make sure you can hear him. Please let me know in the chat. So just really an hour or two. And all of a sudden there was this predator, right? Saying, hey, you want to trade pics? Just like that.
Yes.
So what does that tell you about how many predators are out there?
It tells me that there's a lot of predators waiting for 1 minute till a child looks like they will trade pics.
And they'll just jump right in there.
Yep.
And you know what's crazy is these predators don't have, Tracy said she can hear, fine, thank you. They don't have any concern at all, right? I mean, they're not thinking, you could be a fake decoy from the police. I mean, you could report them right away. The cops could be at their house. I mean, anything could happen, but they don't seem to care, right? They're just like, hey, I'm just going to do this illegal thing. And they don't seem to think they're going to get caught, right?
Right.
And that's crazy. So the intention is, let me find a girl. And then the next thing you know, there's guys messaging you. And then you get wrapped up in all of that. Now, were you concerned about your parents finding out?
At first, yes, I was. And then later I realized they weren't checking, so I just wasn't hiding it.
Say that one more time. They weren't what?
They weren't checking.
The parents weren't checking. You knew they weren't going to be going through the phone, right?
Yeah, but when I figured they were, that's when I hit it.
And then now, what happened when you hit it? Did you feel a bit more bold, like when you were hiding it?
Kinda.
Okay. Because you figure if you're hiding it, then they're really never going to find it, right?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the danger. So, did you see a progression? Like, was it like, did you see things progressing? Like, so some of the screenshots of the conversations were shared. Obviously, screen names and all that were kept out of it. But so the conversations, some of them were just basic, you know, hey, how you doing? Like we see on the screen, right? Are you gay? Are you straight? Are you bi? How old are you? You want to trade pics? You know, those are can be some of the warning signs, right? Now, if somebody just says, how old are you? No, that could be just someone who's, you know, could be a girl interested in, hey, how old are you? Maybe I want to date you, right? Could be. But at the same time, a predator could use that too. Let me just find out how old you are. Because predators have a certain age and look in mind that they're looking for. And that usually goes back to a whole bunch of other factors, which we've talked about on the show previously. And Marie wants to know, how are you hiding it? But we'll get to that. So they will look for a certain age group. They'll look for a certain type of child. And oftentimes they look for a child. Now, think about this. If there's a predator looking for a child and they see that this child is taking pictures, taking videos, posting stuff, do you think that predator is thinking, oh, their parents must be keeping an eye on them?
No.
Exactly. See, that emboldens them more because they know that if you're getting away with this, that nobody's watching you. Nobody's taking care of you. That's exactly what they're thinking. Like, nobody's taking care of you. So therefore they figure they can get away with this even more. So, all right. So how were you hiding it? That's a good question.
It was mainly, first it was on regular messages, and I was just hiding the phone numbers by putting it as different names, like teachers or siblings or parents, and deleting the messages. And then after they were done checking it, I just changed their names again.
Wow. See that, parents? See that? Kids are smarter than we know when it comes to tech, right? And that's why you can't just, you know, oh, just let me check their Facebook messages. No, nothing bad there. We're good. No problem, right? Now, did you have one account for all social media profiles, or were there multiple accounts?
I had one account for trading pics. The other accounts were just for regular family, friends, normal stuff. See that? So you can go to, like, say, TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat, and you can look at their phone and it looks like everything's all normal. But if you go click where they're going to sign out or where they can change accounts, there may be other accounts listed there, right? Because the kids know better. You know, they're going to have one Facebook account where they're just like, school sucks, you know, and mom goes, stay in school. And okay. And it seems like everything's all normal. But on another account is where their real life is, outside of the view of the parents and anybody who cares, right? Right. Okay. Now, at any point did you start being concerned at all? Like, about any of these people you were talking to? Like, you might be in some kind of danger? I mean, obviously you had heard about stuff like this before. After a while, at first I was kinda, but then after a while I just got swept in with it and I didn't care.
And that's what we call trapped. It's an emotional trap. Like, you get so involved in it that nothing matters really anymore. Like, as long as you're able to do this thing, you're unstoppable. Right?
Yeah.
Unstoppable. Now, when it comes to, let me just bring an aspect of faith into this, because we saw a report last week that more and more Americans now believe that sex between teenagers is okay. And we have politicians that are trying to say that pedophiles are not really bad people. And everything is starting to change now, right? And the main demographic, which is up to age 35, thinks that teen sex is all right now. And so that means those parents are basically sending a message to their kids. So 13 years old. Hey, 13, you want to go have sex? That's okay. Now, but it said that people that came from families of faith, right, that attend church regularly, that were Bible believing, that number was only 20% think it's okay. But people who didn't go to church, didn't have any kind of faith, it was up to 60% said, yeah, sure, that's fine. Teens can do what they want. So did faith ever come into your mind with this? Like, did you ever think like what God would be thinking about with this?
Towards the end, yeah, I was, because that's when I really started going to church more.
So there's something called conviction, where God starts making you feel like, this maybe not be right. Okay. Now, can everybody still hear okay out there? Please let us know. So we've covered that the parents weren't going to pay attention. So that made a child feel like, hey, I can get away with this. So that's important, right? The other thing was you were looking for that friendship or whatever. Would you say you were trying to find attention from people?
Yeah.
Was it now what you ended up finding? Was that the attention that you started out looking for?
Kinda.
Okay. You would say that some of this was, let's be honest, did hormones play a part in this?
Yes.
Okay.
A big part.
And that's something else, parents. When kids are sexualized the way they are, with the culture, with the music, with the media, and all that stuff, the movies, they're being hypersexualized. And we've talked about it on this show before. The enemy's goal is to desensitize first. So anything that people might be sensitive to, like, oh man, I don't really want to be seeing people having sex on the screen. But you show them little bits of it enough, put it in front of them enough. And eventually it's like, oh, it's no big deal. I've seen that 100 times. That means desensitized. It's still a big deal, but it's like, I've seen it so much it doesn't really affect me anymore. That's the enemy's first step, desensitize. Then demoralize. So anything that you hold as a moral value, like this is wrong. I'm not going to go down this road because God says it's wrong because I feel like it's wrong. The enemy has to demoralize next. Get you to throw that away. There's no God. You weren't created. You're just a piece of plasmic whatever, right? Your life doesn't mean much. You're just here for a while and then you're gone. There's no consequences after you die. Break the morals down. Desensitize, demoralize, then hypersexualize. Put as much sexual stuff in front of your face as possible. Music, friends, pornography, everything that they can. Put it all right in front of you so that your hormones get absolutely raging on fire. Then the final step is the predator's attack. Because now they've got kids whose morals have been broken down. They don't really think what the predator wants to do is that bad. Because, I used to think it was bad, but not really much anymore. They've got you hypersexualized, so therefore kids are willing to go out and do this because it's going to feel good, right? And then the predators can attack. And then your whole life is altered and changed. But that's the goal, right? So hormones definitely played a part in it. Now, we're going to take calls here in a few minutes. If you guys want to talk to Jay, ask him any questions, he's willing to talk to people. Again, the number is 727-349-6941. 727, I'm going to put it in the chat, 727-349-6941. Tracy says, if his parents had checked his phone, would they have seen him talking about anything to his friend? I know some parents who just check texts. So if they were just like, would they see you talking about anything to your friend? Like, if they were checking your phone, would they be looking in the right place is the question.
At first, yes, they were. They were looking in the right place, but I was hiding it to where they couldn't.
Wait, so there was some random checking is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, but not nearly enough to know where to look.
Not as
Okay.
much.
So that's the importance of knowing the tricks that the kids have. Okay. Now, we shared some of the details about how, now you had gotten to a point where you had literally given out your address, right?
Right.
Okay. You gave your address out to somebody or to multiple people that you really had no idea who they were.
Right.
Right. Now, did you have any fear there that maybe something really bad could happen?
At that point, I guess I really just didn't care. I guess all I wanted at that point was just sex.
Yeah, that's the hypersexualized thing happening, right? Think about that. When a kid becomes so hypersexualized that all they can think about is not danger, but who's going to give me sex. Wow. So we going through all the messages and all of stuff, we figured that you gave your address out to at least 3 or 4 people. And the scary part is that 2 of them were not far from here. Okay? We're going to leave the towns out, but 2 of them were, we'll say, within 30 minutes of where you lived. Right? And you also had a situation where, and you're not sure if this is connected or not, but where you were riding your bike. And you told me about a situation where somebody tried to grab you off your bike.
Yeah.
I mean, that if that wasn't connected to what you were doing, it was a sign from God, right? Like, hey, this person would have really just tried to grab you off your bike. I mean, that's pretty scary, right? Now, you talked about a situation with the app Grindr, where you told us that somebody actually came to your place where you live.
Yes, but not the exact place.
But you saw them.
Yes.
You saw them. So somebody came right to where, I mean, within close range. We're being discreet here for obvious reasons, but like you could go outside and see the car.
Yeah.
So this person literally was coming to basically pick you up.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't go out there. What stopped you?
I just had a feeling that I knew something was going to happen besides what I thought.
Thank God. Kind of like that girl was sharing, the 13-year-old, where she said, like, she had that little voice that was saying, what are you doing? Go back inside. Like, what? But before she could do anything, somebody grabbed her. But it's a good thing that you thought that ahead of time. So what we're seeing is that these predators, they are bold. They will come right to the place and think that it's absolutely normal, like this, that they're going to get away with this. Right? I mean, how scary is that? You know? So what would you say you've learned? We're going to open up the phones here. If anybody wants to call or text Jay a question, we'll take a call or text right now. The number is 727-349-6941. 727-349-6941. So what would you say you're learning from all this? Like, if you had to say, what was the main reasons? Like, are you figuring out, like, as you've had time to reflect back now, and it's been a few months, you know, what have you learned from all of this?
Mainly that even if your kid is acting all normal, you still should check her or his phone whoever, and just check it on a regular basis, or put parental controls on it, make sure where they're going, keep a close eye on them, and just think how your kids would think.
Think how your kids would think. Yeah. Because it's the parent that says, this will never happen to my kid, right? My kid would never do this. He's the good kid, right? He's the good kid. My child would never do that. I don't have to check that because they know better, because I've told them. It's that kind of thinking, parents, that ends up in bad situations. And listen, kids are good, but you know what? They're in a battle right now. Not only a battle for their soul, but for their mind, for their heart. And that enemy out there wants to steal, kill, and destroy your child's life. That's it. That's the goal. And it's the promises of, hey, I'll take care of you. We see it on the screen here, you know, and just come with me and I'll make sure you're okay because I love you. We've seen predators telling kids that I love you and I'll take care of you. I'll be a daddy to you, right? And it's like they're playing on those sympathies. They're telling kids what they want to hear. But do you think that their goal was they really want to care about you, or did they want to have sex with you?
They want to have sex.
That's it. They wanted to use you. They wanted to use you, and that's it. They wanted to use you. And that's one of the important things that we've been trying to teach, Jay, is that these predators don't care about you. They care about the way you can make them feel. That's it. And if something bad happens to you, oh well, then move on to the next kid. And so that raises the question of, how do you feel about yourself? Right? Like, did you ever feel like you were worthy for more than just sex at the time?
Kinda. Not really.
Not really. So I'm going to get sex because that's what I'm good for. Does it sound like that? Or it could be off. Okay. So I'll answer this question because of we're keeping everything anonymous. But Marie wanted to know, how did it stop? So without saying any names, right? Obviously, you want to address that? How did it stop without saying any names? So originally, how did it finally come to the surface?
I stopped by my family members adding parental controls and checking on my phone. And
wait, back up. How did it get exposed? And we know this because we were talking to the parents.
First,
so how did this finally get exposed?
First time was my brother just randomly checked my phone. Second time, it got exposed by parental controls.
There you go. Right. So that's kind of how it actually ended up stopping. Because and we think it's a God thing totally, that his brother happened to, they usually you left your phone unlocked or something.
I just left my phone, instead of hiding it this time, I just left it out and he checked it.
So you got really comfortable with no one's ever going to know this, to the point where you just put your phone down and was like, I'll just leave it unlocked.
Because I did not expect my brother to check there.
Right. Are you glad that he did?
Yeah.
and I'm sure your family is, and we are too, and the fact that your brother had the courage to bring it to your parents. I mean, he could have just been like, Jay, what is this? Right. And I'll keep it quiet for you. Now, if he had done that, do you think you would have stopped?
I would hope I would have, but probably not.
No, because like you said, you were swept up. The hormones were running, the attention was coming in, and then some basic parental controls got put on the phone, which started to monitor websites and messages and things. And so that it came up again, right? And then at that point, some different parental controls got put on the phone, a couple of different apps, and we've talked about them. MM Guardian is one of them. It's $10 a month, and AirDroid, which is another good one for Android phones. And it monitors social media conversations. It monitors GPS location in real time. It monitors all notifications to the phone, if the phone's going dead, if the phone's been turned off, all that kinds of stuff. You can monitor phone numbers that come in. Go ahead.
And also one-way audio, see what they're looking at, and look through their camera and see what they're doing. That type of stuff.
Yeah, one-way audio. And, you know, and parents would think, I'm not going to snoop on my kid. I mean, you know, it's like, you know, and certainly Jay's situation warrants this kind of watching because of the situation. Right now, there are multiple predators, and they share information with each other. So we really don't know. Your family doesn't know. You don't know how many people actually have your address and have your picture of your face and where they're all at. Right? You don't know.
Right.
We don't know. Your family doesn't know. So obviously, until a certain amount of time goes by, those parental controls are needed to be there for that purpose.
Yes.
Right? Because it's very real out there. You know? And just to make a little joke about it real quick, but I remember you saying to us, like, hey, you know what? I wasn't worried about anybody taking me because I'll kick their butt. You know, like, and kids can have that attitude, right? Like, no one's going to grab me. I'll fight them. Oh, man, I was, you know, and they think there's just no way it's going to happen. Now, there are scenarios where there's multiple people. There's scenarios where there's guns involved, where there's needle injection, boop, to the neck, you're out. There's, you know, there's so many different things that you can't think of that could happen, right? That there's no way anybody could prepare for. And it's like, that's why you don't take chances. That's why parents would have their kids come home before dark. Because if the kids are running around in the dark, there's, you know, an escalated chance that they could easily be knocked out from behind, grabbed, stabbed, kidnapped, right? Than it is in broad daylight, right? I mean, that's just the way the world's always been, you know? Marie says, did you tell any of your friends?
No.
And I know where that's going. They're kind of going with, this is Marie's husband, David. They're going with the angle of, would it be good to kind of warn your friends to not fall into that?
I did without telling them what I did because I saw a video from protectyourchildren.org about this, and I played it in front of my friend.
A video from protectyourchildren.org. Pretty cool. You should visit that website, protectyourchildren.org. But no, that's great because that's the whole thing. Like, not necessarily having to share everything that you did, but more of to make sure they're not falling into it too, because that could be happening. You know what I mean? Like, you could have friends, and especially with the public school, who knows how many kids might be trapped in a situation like you are, or like you were. And some kids still may think it's okay, and other kids may have realized it's not okay, but now they can't get out. And, you know, maybe they're not going to be as lucky as to have a hero brother like you did that stepped up, you know. Tracy said his brother is another kid hero, as is for Jay for talking on here to help other kids. So what do you want to say to Tracy?
Thank you.
He says thank you. Thank you for that.
Except for he's not as skinny as them.
All right. So yeah, I mean, it's a rough world that we live in. And you know, we've always said there's no reason to have to wrap your kids in bubble wrap, you know, and keep them locked up all the time. But the key is to educate them, let them know the dangers of what's out there. Now, let me ask you this question. If you had somebody telling you a long time ago, hey, you may encounter this, you may want to start doing this, but X, Y, and Z bad things could happen. If somebody had told you that, do you think maybe it would have changed what you started to do?
It might have changed it a little bit. The main thing they should have done was, as soon as they gave me the phone, add parental controls on it until they know for sure that it won't happen.
Good call. Yeah, why kids have phones today with no parental controls? I mean, that's like giving them the internet with all the evil that's out there and just saying, here, go swim, have fun, and be careful. That's it. Be careful. That's you know, like they have to know that bad stuff can happen, right? They have to know that bad stuff can happen. And Tracy said, you're most welcome. But yes, Jay is a hero kid because honestly, and it helps that there's an anonymity and that there's no face, but it's still a hard thing to talk about. I mean, you know, it to come on a show basically and say, you know, that, you know, yeah, I was trading pics with guys, girls, anybody that would pay attention. You know, yeah, I gave out my address, you know, and there's going to be the haters that would go, well, that was stupid. Why would you give out your addresses? Everybody knows how to give out their address. You know, those kids don't understand, you know. And again, if anybody wants to text or call the show, you can do that 727-349-6941. Final few minutes here. I wanted to ask you about something. You had shared that you went through abuse when you were younger. Do you think that being abused played any part in this?
Most likely.
So take that as a not sure.
Not sure.
So when you're abused, was it by somebody that was older than you?
2 times was, and the other time was by 2 people, which could easily beat me up.
Okay, but were they older?
They were 1 year younger.
Both of them. Okay. And so it's easy to say that you were exposed, not willingly, but you were exposed to sexual activity at a young age. And how old were you when this first happened?
First time I was 5.
5 years old. 5 years old. And then you had shared that it was, after that was what, 7? You said or something?
Yeah, 7.
7. So you will see over time how that connects to all of it. You know, when it happens to a child is whether it's against their will or it's I hate to say not against their will because there is an age thing going on. You parents understand this, but whether it's a grooming and a quote unquote consensual type situation where it's not physically forced or it's a physically forced situation, both have negative effects on a child that as they get older, especially when they hit puberty, the memories are going to come to mind of that. And if there were bad memories, like negative memories, we had talked a little bit about the attempt to try to duplicate the situation, but with you being in control, right?
Right.
We had talked about that. And that's just some of the psychology that's behind it. But parents, when kids get abused, it can lead to things like this. We know when women are abused, a lot of times they end up having multiple sexual partners. They end up with STDs. They end up as prostitutes. And other things can happen. That's really, really bad. They end up with abusive men because that's what they first experienced.
Yeah.
How wrong that it was. And so there were older people taking advantage of you being young. And then you went online and ended up talking to older people who were going to take advantage of you who were young.
Yeah.
Can you see a connection?
Yeah.
Yeah. See the connection there. It's right, but the roles are reversed now because it's kind of like you were out there looking for it. So therefore you felt like it wasn't going to be forced upon you. Now, of course, when you got into the situation, like you said, it may not be exactly the way you thought it was going to be, right?
Yeah.
And the danger is out there, right? It says, do you still warn other kids about the dangers of online predators? Like you said,
kids that I
yeah.
know and I can, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the whole point, right? That you've experienced this So it's like, if you care about kids, you care about your friends, you want to make sure that they're not going to fall into something like that. And it can be a random conversation. It could just be a, hey, you see all this stuff with the online predators, man? They're like sickos. Oh yeah, I've encountered them before, right? You know, somehow you can find ways to tell them to be safe, you know, and let them know that if something's happening like that, that they can talk to you, you know, and that they can talk to their parent, talk to somebody, right? Because if they don't, what's the next step? They're going to end up meeting somebody and getting kidnapped, getting raped, getting beat up, left for dead somewhere. I'd hate to think that maybe you knew or I knew that that was going to happen to somebody and I didn't say something. And then that happened. Live with that, right? So we have a responsibility to kind of say, hey, make sure you guys are being safe, because there are people online that don't really care about you, right?
Right.
All right. Well, that's about it. Any last things you want to say to parents or kids?
Just
What would you say to the kids that are going to be seeing this podcast?
don't be dumb.
Meaning,
As look for warning signs. Anything. If someone texts you, ask your parents about them. See if your parents will let you add them or talk to them. But just be smart out there and look for the warning signs.
yeah. And don't look for attention in the wrong places.
Yeah.
And that's hard because sometimes kids don't have someone to turn to, right?
Yeah. And also just focus on life, your school, and if you're
Sports.
Christian, God.
Yeah. And sports.
Yeah,
Right?
and
You're a big
sports.
sports person. So, you know, find something that you love, that you're good at, focus on that. But you always have to keep your guard up. That's just the bottom line. And we've seen it week after week after week. We bring it to you on the show. Teachers, coaches, volunteers, all over the place, right? Priests, pastors, they're all getting arrested. Disney workers, cops. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. So they're all around out there. They're moving into position now because they feel like enough of the generation has been desensitized, has been demoralized, and has been hypersexualized. So now the predators are there waiting to attack. And final thought is what we've seen over and over and over again is kids that were talking to predators for 6 months or even longer before something terrible happened. And that says nobody was paying attention for that child.
Yeah.
Nobody was watching out for that child. They just thought it would never happen to my child. But the reality is it could. And you have to educate your kids now, make them aware now. Should be checking their phones, know their friends, know where their friends' houses are, know who's hanging out at their friends. That's a big thing. They could be over there with their friend Johnny, but Johnny's got an uncle living there or an older brother who might try to abuse your child. But I didn't know there was a Joey or an uncle there. Had no idea. I thought he was just going to hang out with Johnny. Right? So you need to know who else is in the house. Like, who else is going to be around? What other adults are around your kids that you don't know? I mean, that's important, right? If your friend's going to hang out with their friend, and you know that the friend might be bad news, aren't you going to tell your friend, hey, let me come with you for the first time to make sure that this person's okay? Of course you would. But we're going to let our kids go down around the corner, down the block, a mile away to their friend's house and not have any idea who they're spending time with? Right? I mean, that's just dangerous. So, all right. That's the end of the show for this week. I appreciate you guys being here. Jay, thank you again.
You're welcome.
For being here. It's brave. And we're confident that his parents and us, we're going to stay involved and help to keep him safe as best we can. And parents, please share this, learn from this. We'd hate to see this, only get 20 or 30 views. And again, it's not about views. It's about education and about protecting kids. So you really got to share the podcast. It's available all day tomorrow. The next day, we're going to be posting it. Please, 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 please share the podcast on your profiles. Share it on Twitter. Share it everywhere you go. Tell people about it. Anybody who's got kids, even if they don't have kids, there's stuff that they can learn from this. So please share this, like, subscribe, all that good stuff to our social media. And until next week, we thank you for being here. And this is Chris with Protect Your Children Incorporated. Until next week, God bless and keep protecting.